This is the Louie Tee Network.
In the lab room.
The views and opinions shared on this program are that of Louie Tee and In the Lab Room alone and should be taken exactly as they are given. If you are soft, easily offended, or can't listen to the criticism of your team, this program is not intended for you. This is pure, unadulterated football talk for the hardcore fan. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. I am your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on this program, 2014 NFL Lab Reports. Today we're talking about America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. They got that star on their helmet, so let's talk about that team in Big D, the Dallas Cowboys, 2014 NFL Lab Report. Who doesn't want to be a star? That's a really good question. Be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. You might end up a Dallas Cowboy. That's not a good thing these days. But say what you want about the Dallas Cowboys. They do a lot of things well. And when your defense is as bad as the Cowboys' defense is, you've got to do a lot of things to offset the funkiness that's on that side of the football. And so you want to offset how bad the defense is. The best way to do so is what? Turnovers. The great equalizer. The Dallas Cowboys did a really good job of keeping their turnovers down and forcing the issue. But not just forcing the issue and forcing turnovers. They did it the scoop and score variety way. Now, scoop and score is a technique that many try, many fail to master. That ball, its shape and its texture, it's so hard to grab. Guys want to pick it up and run with it, but a lot of times they whiff. They whiff. But the Cowboys, no. They got it down pat. They led the league with 3 defensive touchdowns off of the scoop and score. 3 fumble recoveries for touchdowns. And this Cowboys team was +8 in the turnover differential. So, look, you say what you want about this defense. They forced turnovers last season, and this offense made sure that those turnovers turned into points. And when the offense didn't do that, the defense said, hey, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it ourselves. So that's a strength of this football team, one that they want to carry over to 2014. Continue to force fumbles. And when you pick it up, head for the border. Get in the end zone. You want to talk about another strength of this Cowboys team? I just talked about them scoring touchdowns. And when you generate turnovers and you give the football to Tony Romo, touchdowns are going to happen with Des Bryant on the field. Cowboys were second in the league with 33 passing touchdowns. Again, I try to tell people this all the time. Get off of Tony Romo's back. Without Tony, this Cowboys team is nowhere. And 33 touchdowns versus only 12 interceptions speaks for itself. Tony took care of the football. Tony got it in the end zone. Tony Romo got it done. 33 touchdowns last year, passing second in the league behind, of course, Peyton Manning and that 55 touchdown outburst and NFL record-setting pace he had last season. And so Tony got it done. This Cowboys offense got it done, and they got it done through the air. And you know, points come through the passing game in the National Football League. Want to talk about another strength of this team? Then you want to talk about Dan Bailey in the field goal kicking department. Here's a guy that ever since becoming a Dallas Cowboy has been top-notch, has been one of the best field goal kickers in the entire National Football League, and last year was no different. Dan Bailey pounded home 93% of his kicks, second only behind the 94% put forth by Sean Sweezum and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so they got it done. Dan Bailey got it done. The entire specialist unit, the holder, your long snapper, they all got it done. They worked as a team, and Dan Bailey knocked them home. And he's been as consistent a kicker as you can get, and as you will find in this league over the last 3 or 4 seasons strong. Dan Bailey has been a guy that you can rely on and send him out on the field. And he was 10 for 10 last year in the money distance, and that's the distance I deem 40 to 49 yards. That's the money distance. That's where you're going to kick the majority of your field goals in this league. Those are the ones that are toughies, because, you know, that 47, that 49 yarder, that could be a tough one. But the good kickers in this league, that's where they separate themselves. They are able to knock those home consistently, and Dan Bailey has been able to do that since coming into the league as a Dallas Cowboy. And last but not least, another strength of this Dallas Cowboys team, precious cargo. This team didn't allow Tony Romo to be hit that often. Second fewest hits surrendered on the quarterback by this offensive line. Tony Romo, and half of it is the offensive line doing their job. Half of it is Tony Romo and that lightning fast release that he has. He goes through his progressions. He gets rid of the football. And if he doesn't like what he sees, he can escape the pocket and make things happen. I think Tony Romo is his dangerous when he ad-libs, gets out of the pocket, and creates something out of nothing. We've seen Tony Romo do that time and time again. I know as a Redskin fan, he scares me half to death when he gets out of the pocket. That's when he does his most damage to my football team. I can't speak for anybody else, but when he gets outside of the pocket, he is a master of disaster. And so this team, this offensive line, did not allow Tony to be hit that often. And so they took care of their quarterback. He's precious cargo, absolutely. You saw that in Week 17. If Tony plays in that game against Philadelphia in Week 17, you win that football game. Because he didn't play in that game, you lost that game. And so, at least that's how I feel. Maybe he would have thrown the same interception that Kyle Orton threw. Who knows? But one thing's for sure, he didn't get hit that often last year. That's something that you want to continue with, especially with that back problem now. You want to make sure that you keep Tony Romo upright in 2014. So you move on from those strengths to these weaknesses, and they are aplenty in Big D. I hope you got a Snickers. Matter of fact, make that too, because I'm going to be a while. So, weaknesses for this Dallas Cowboys football team, and there are so many weaknesses. There are so many layers to peel back and comb over. Couldn't commit it to memory. I just couldn't. I tried. I failed miserably. So, I got my crack staff on the case, and you know, they always do a phenomenal job of providing us with hard, concrete numbers and evidence. And so I asked the crack staff to get on the case of the Dallas Cowboys and their defense and bring us some hard numbers as to why this team struggled a season ago. And I've got these weaknesses right here in my hand thanks to that crack staff. And so I'm going to read them off to you one by one again. Go ahead and crack open that Snickers and enjoy, because this is going to be a while. Offensive third down efficiency. Cowboys were third worst in the league, 35%. Now, that's surprising to me, because here's an offense that I look at and I see an explosive team. They almost averaged 30 points a game last season. They're able to throw the football all over the field. Terrence Williams, I thought, had a really strong season last year. Cole Beasley started to emerge. Dwayne Harris is a guy you can get the football to sometimes. DeMarco Murray actually stayed relatively healthy last year. So I just felt like there were weapons all over the field. And for you to struggle on third down, I didn't really see that one coming. But I guess that's what the numbers state. And here's a team that found a way to get points. And third down efficiency is huge, especially for a team with a defense that struggles. And I'll explain, and you'll kind of see how these coincide. You go from that weakness to the next one that kind of goes hand in hand with third down efficiency. That's time of possession. So you can kind of see what happens when you don't pick up third downs. You give the football back to the opposing team's offense. And what you also do, and this is the biggest thing for the Cowboys, is you put the defense back on the field. And this defense is terrible. So if you're not possessing the football, if you're not converting third downs, and you're putting your defense back on the field, who can't stop anybody, you're in trouble. And so time of possession, Cowboys were 7th worst in the league in time of possession. You gotta dominate time of possession if you're the Cowboys. I think that's one of the best ways you can assure that you can win in 2014 is keeping your defense on the sideline by dominating time of possession and capping off drives with touchdowns. Keeping this defense, your Achilles heel, on the sidelines. And last year you didn't do that, and so you lost football games because of it. You go on to another weakness for this Dallas Cowboys team, penalties. This has always been an issue with the Cowboys. They've always been an undisciplined team. This goes back to the Flozell Adams days, where he would always jump false start, and you could count on Flozell for at least one false start penalty and one holding penalty as well. And nothing's changed in Dallas. They still have an abundance of penalties year in, year out. And this year, they had 112 penalties on both offensive and defensive penalties. So they were an equal opportunity offender when it came to penalties, both on the offensive and defensive sides of the football, 112. The yardage, again, stemming from these penalties weren't egregious, but again, a penalty's a penalty's a penalty. You don't want penalties, especially on the defensive side of football, where it doesn't matter if it's 5 yards or not. It's usually attached with a first down. And again, for a defense that struggles to get off the field, for a defense that struggles to keep teams out of the end zone, you don't need to help the offense out at all. That offense already has a distinct advantage because they're going up against your funky defense. You don't need to help them out at all with penalties. So now let's get to the creme de la creme. Let's get to the main event of these weaknesses. And it's the defense as a whole. Man, oh man, this defense is bad. Just how bad was this defense? Dead last in the league bad last season. So let's just run off the list of things they did poorly and move on. So you start with 4th worst on third downs. I just talked about this being a problem. So not only is your offense not converting third downs and keeping you off the field, but when you get on the field, you can't get off the field. 43% of third downs are converted on this Dallas Cowboys defense. That is something that has to change. And if it does not, you'll continue to find yourself in precarious situations throughout the season, and you will not be able to keep teams from putting up high amounts of points this season. You've got to get off the field on third downs, and really, you want to do your work early. First and second down, keep teams from picking up manageable gains so that on third down, it's 3rd and long, it's 3rd and 7, it's 3rd and 9, it's 3rd and 11. You want teams to have to go and push the football down the field, give you a chance to get to the quarterback. If it's 3rd and 3, a simple 3-step drop and a speed out, a hitch, a slant, a bubble screen, anything, a draw play even, that'll pick up a first down. Don't give the offense options. Make them have to push the football down the field to pick up a first down on third down. 3rd most yards per game and total given up passing. So 3rd most yards total on the season given up, and 3rd most yards per game given up by this Dallas Cowboys defense passing the football. They were one of 3 teams in the league to give up over 4,500 yards passing on the season. Cowboys were more closer to 4,600 yards passing than 4,500 given up. This passing defense was abysmal. And there were so many different factors going into that. I just told you that they couldn't get off the field on third downs. That's a factor. They didn't get to the quarterback. We'll talk about that here in a second. That's a factor. They just struggled to get off the field and stop teams. Here's another factor. 64.7% completion percentage. Guys were open. Guys were catching the football. Guys were running after the catch. Guys were streaking down the field wide open. That's what happens when you can't get off the field. That's what happens when you have a suspect secondary. And we all know this Cowboys secondary has been suspect for a very, very long time. You look at most yards given up per game, period. I mean, the Cowboys, they were the only team in the league last season to surrender over 400 yards total per game. 415 to be exact per game. No one else in the league gave up over 400 yards per game on average, but the Dallas Cowboys. So you can see offensively, teams were excited to see this Dallas Cowboys team on the schedule because they knew they could run it and they could pass it. And if they had their offense going that day, they could easily amass 500 total yards of offense against this Cowboys defense. Shameful. Shameful. Second most passing touchdowns given up. Your offense scored 33 passing touchdowns. Your defense gave up 33 passing touchdowns. So much for having an offensive advantage. You didn't even get to take advantage of your offense scoring points because you were giving up points yourself. So 33 touchdowns passing given up. That was good for second most in the league. What more can I say? There's a lot more I can say, including only 34 sacks for this Cowboys team last year as a defense. DeMarcus Ware was banged up. Anthony Spencer is always banged up. You didn't generate a lot of pressure on the quarterback. If not for George Selvey coming out of nowhere, I don't know if you even make it to 30 sacks last season. So good for you. You have rid yourself of DeMarcus Ware, which I didn't think was a good thing because I think he still got something left in the tank. I just thought he was banged up last year. And to me, he was a Dallas Cowboy, but he's got a chance to win now out in Denver. You're going to have to find some more guys. Did you just replace DeMarcus with DeMarcus? We'll see. I don't know if DeMarcus Lawrence, he looks the part. You know, he's a big athletic kid. He looks the part. Let's see if he can play like DeMarcus did for many, many years in Big D. Sixth most rushing touchdowns given up with 17. You gave it up through the air. You gave it up on the ground. That's a whopping 50 touchdowns that you gave up last season. That is way too many touchdowns. Way too many. Again, gotta be better defensively. There's a lot of things to clean up here. And you gave up the sixth most rushing yards on the season. One of 8 teams to surrender over 2,000 yards rushing. You're a part of a lot of elite clubs that you really don't want any part of. You know, the only team to give up over 400 yards per game. One of 3 teams to give up over 4,500 yards passing. One of 8 teams to give up over 2,000 yards rushing. You're a part of a lot of bad clubs that you really don't want to be associated with. There's a lot of work to do here on the defensive side of football for the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't know if 1 year is enough time to clean up all the messes that's in Big D. But again, you've got to try, right? The only thing worse than failing is not trying at all. So, good luck. You're going to need it. Those are all the weaknesses of this Dallas Cowboys football team. We move on from there to camp battles in Big D. So as you see behind me, I have the assistance of my big board, and I'll be breaking down camp battles as well as the experiment for this Dallas Cowboys football team. So some of these are camp battles, and some of these are just positions that need to be discussed. So we start at the running back position. And I lumped in a fullback as well because I don't know if the Cowboys are keeping a fullback or not. Let's talk about this position quickly. 5 for 4. I think the Cowboys are going to, when it's all said and done, they're going to keep either 4 running backs, pure running backs, or 3 running backs and a fullback. Either way, it's a 5 for 4 situation. Here are your participants: DeMarco Murray, Lance Dunbar, Joseph Randle, Ryan Williams, and Tyler Klutz. These are the guys that I think have a realistic shot at making this roster. Now, we know DeMarco Murray, Lance Dunbar, and that's it. Those 2 are making this roster for sure. For sure. I think Joseph Randle is a guy that you want around. But if Ryan Williams comes in, a young guy from Virginia Tech that has dealt with injuries, that was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals with all the potential in the world, but he just couldn't stay healthy in Arizona. If he can come in and besiege Joseph Randle, then he can make this roster. You know, there's some things that he's going to have to work on as a running back, pass protection being one of them, because Joseph Randle is a guy that you want to come in the game on third downs because he can catch the football and do some other things. So if Ryan Williams is going to take his spot on this roster, not only is he going to have to play special teams and play it well, he's also going to have to be able to block on third downs and protect Tony Romo. And that's something that he has struggled a little bit with throughout the preseason. So I think Joseph Randle is still a guy that's going to make this roster when it's all said and done. Are you keeping a fullback in Tyler Klutz, or are you going to say to hell with the fullback position and just hold on to Ryan Williams? I don't know the answer to that. I just know this much. You've had injury problems at the running back position for the last 3 seasons. DeMarco Murray has been a guy that cannot stay healthy throughout his career, and that goes back to college at Oklahoma. Lance Dunbar started to emerge last year, and on Thanksgiving he gets injured and misses the rest of the season. So you've dealt with injuries. You might want to keep that extra back just in case somebody decides to go down for a lengthy period of time. I think that would be the smart thing to do and hold on to Ryan Williams. But you may decide to say, hey, I'm erring on the side of danger, and I'm just going to take 3 backs into the season with me and take a fullback too. We'll see. No fullback has really impressed you to the point where you're like, hey, this guy has to be on the roster. So we'll see what the Cowboys do at the running back position. You move on to the defense, and this is where all the questions are. This is where all the question marks surrounding this football team lie. And so you got to talk about the defensive side of football. Let's start with the defensive line. 12 for 10. Yes, I just said 12 for 10. 12 players vying for 10 roster spots. And because there are no dominant football players that are eating up a lot of snaps, you possibly have to keep 10 players along this defensive line. George Selvey, Henry Melton, Terrell McClain, DeMarcus Lawrence, Jeremy Mincey, Tyrone Crawford, Devon Coleman, Ken Bishop, Nick Hayden, Anthony Spencer, Ben Gardner, and Kenneth Boatwright are all participants in this camp battle. Now, George Selvey is going to be on this roster. Henry Melton is a guy you went out and got in free agency from Chicago. He's going to be on this roster. Terrell McClain going to be on this roster. DeMarcus Lawrence, kid you drafted out of Boise, traded up with the Redskins in the 2nd round to get him as a defensive end. You're looking for him to do big things. He's on this roster. Jeremy Mincey, he's going to be on this roster. You went out and got him in free agency. Tyrone Crawford is a guy that you drafted a few years ago. He's going to be on this roster as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players right there. Then you come down here, and there's 6 players from about 4 positions. Devon Coleman, Ken Bishop, Nick Hayden, Anthony Spencer, Ben Gardner, and Kenneth Boatwright. Now, Anthony Spencer is going to be on this roster, of course. Now, the question is he going to be healthy enough for you to keep him off the PUP list? I'm hearing that his rehab is going so well that you think he can be back by week 3. If that is in fact the case, then you need to keep him off the PUP list. If you keep him off the PUP list, then you have to make him a part of this active roster from week 1. So if he in fact can be ready by week 3, then I think it's worth it to keep him off the PUP list. You would go ahead and slide him up among the defensive linemen that are going to be on this football team. That takes you to 7. Nick Hayden, I thought he played extremely well last year. I mean, for a defensive line that was ravaged by injuries, he was one of the few bright spots along your defensive line. He tried hard. He gave you everything he had. He performed, I thought, well enough to be back on this roster if he continues to play hard in training camp and through the preseason. I think Nick Hayden is on this football team as well, so that's 8. Now you're talking about Devon Coleman and Ken Bishop, Ben Gardner and Kenneth Boatwright. Right now, Devon Coleman and Ken Bishop look like guys that are trying to make this roster. And it looks like Ben Gardner, a guy you drafted in the 7th round, could be on the outside looking in. Now, you always want to keep and hold on to your draft picks if at all possible. But he's a 7th rounder. If he doesn't make your roster, you're probably just going to stash him on the practice squad. So it's not like he has to make this roster. It's not like he's a 3rd or a 4th round pick. So he could easily not make this roster, defensive end out of Stanford, Ben Gardner, and still be on the practice squad, or he could make this roster. We'll see. And Kenneth Boatwright is a guy that has performed well throughout camp, has made a name for himself in this Dallas Cowboys training camp. He is trying to make this roster. I don't know if he'll be able to do enough to get himself onto this roster, but he's got a shot. Like I said, 10 roster spots potentially devoted to the defensive line. Anything's possible. We'll see what happens along this defensive line for the Dallas Cowboys. You look at linebacker, and to me, this is the weakest position on this football team because of the injuries. Because Sean Lee isn't around, that automatically takes some of the depth away and takes some of the sting and the oomph away from this Dallas Cowboys linebacking core. Bruce Carter, Justin Durant, Kyle Wilber, Devontae Holloman, Anthony Hitchens, Rolando McClain, Cam Lawrence, and Will Smith. It's 8 for 7. So 8 linebackers for 7 roster spots potentially. Bruce Carter is a kid that if he could just stay healthy, if Bruce Carter could just stay healthy, maybe he would be a better football player than he is right now. But he's going to be on this roster nonetheless. So is Justin Durant. Kyle Wilber is going to be on this team. Devontae Holloman is a kid you drafted out of TCU a couple of years ago. He's going to be on this roster. You just drafted Anthony Hitchens out of Iowa. He's on this roster. That's 5 right there. Rolando McClain is a guy that you're trying. He's a reclamation project. Flamed out of the league. He quit out of Oakland. He tried to come back with Baltimore. He quit halfway through the workout. So he's someone that I don't trust. I never trust the guy that quits. And he quit twice. So I don't trust Rolando McClain any further than I can throw him. And I can't throw his big 260-pound behind. So I don't trust Rolando McClain at all. Cam Lawrence and Will Smith round out this group. Will Smith is a kid that you drafted out of Texas Tech this year in the 2014 NFL Draft. So he has a realistic shot at making this roster, much like Ben Gardner. If he does not make this roster, he can be stashed away on the practice squad. So he's not guaranteed a roster spot, but he's in a really good position because he's going to help you on special teams, number 1, and he's going to provide you with depth, number 2. So he can make this roster. Cam Lawrence is another guy battling for a spot on this roster. He could easily end up on this roster as well. Rolando McClain, to me, he's a name. He's a guy that if he's in shape, he can help you. If he's not willing to put forth the effort, if he's not going to give you 110%, if you even think there's a shred of quit in this guy, I say you get rid of him and just rid yourself of that headache down the line. So this is an interesting group right here. You also got some guys battling to start. Justin Durant is trying to make sure he's starting, and he's going to have to hold off a guy like Anthony Hitchens to start at middle linebacker in the place of Sean Lee. There's a lot of pieces moving around because of that injury, and so you're hoping the linebackers are able to step up. Watch that game against the Ravens, and the linebackers look pretty bad. Ray Rice had a huge run against them. This team has to clean it up along the defensive line and the linebacking core. Again, that front 7 is going to be instrumental in the success of this defense if you're going to be better than you were a season ago. You look at the cornerbacks, another sore spot for this team, and it's more of inconsistency than lack of talent at the cornerback position. 7 for 5, Brandon Carr, Orlando Scandrick, Morris Claiborne, Sterling Moore, Terrence Mitchell, Tyler Patman, and B.W. Webb. So, and there's been a lot going on, a lot of controversy with this group. Brandon Carr dealt with some injuries in camp. He's finally back. Orlando Scandrick, here's a kid that went over to Mexico, was popping Molly, and he's been popped with a 4-game suspension. So he's going to miss the first 4 games of the season. That's unfortunate for a group that can't really afford to have that happen. And he was really battling Morris Claiborne to start. If Claiborne came out and struggled, remember, he replaced Morris Claiborne last year as your starting corner opposite of Brandon Carr. Like 2/3 of the way through the season, he was the starter. So he was coming into camp with a lot of confidence, feeling like, hey, if Claiborne wants to trip, I'll take that spot. We'll slide him to the slot. So now because of that suspension, it's Mo Claiborne's job. He's going to be your second corner. These 3 are definitely on the roster. And I think you could also throw Sterling Moore in there. I think he's going to be around as well. So that's 4. Now here's where it gets tricky down here at the bottom. Terrence Mitchell, Tyler Patman, and B.W. Webb. B.W. Webb is a kid you drafted out of William and Mary last season. He's eligible for the practice squad, but as a player, it's tough to take that type of demotion, to go from an active roster guy to the practice squad. But look, if it happens, it happens. And B.W. Webb, he's been in some controversy. We know about the whole altercation with the Raiders when you had the scrimmage out in Palo Alto. Look, the fact of the matter is you drafted Terrence Mitchell in the 7th round out of Baylor. If Terrence Mitchell is better than Tyler Patman and B.W. Webb, he's going to make the roster. if Terrence Mitchell, because it's all about upside. When you get to that last roster spot, it's about upside. It's about who's the guy that can help me now, and the future is bright for him. So we want him to be on this roster, learn and grow into the position all the while still being able to help us on Sundays. Terrence Mitchell could be that guy. B.W. Webb could be that guy. Tyler Patman could be that guy. I don't know. But they're all battling for that final roster spot in Dallas, and we'll see who comes out on top as the final corner on this roster. And then you go to safety, and this has been one of those positions that you just throw your hands up and you say, what the hell, man? What else can we do at safety? Barry Church and 5 guys are going to make this roster. You have to keep 5 at the safety position. Just because you just don't know at the safety position. You got to keep 5. Barry Church, J.J. Wilcox, Jeff Heath, Jakar Hamilton, and Ahmad Dixon. Barry Church is your starter. Unquestioned starter at one of the safety spots. You want J.J. Wilcox to assume the role as the other safety. Here's a kid you drafted out of Georgia Southern a couple of years ago, and you're waiting for him to take that monumental leap and become the other safety across from Barry Church. You're hoping this is the year that it happens. We'll see. Jeff Heath is a guy that can play, saw the field a lot last year, also helps you on special teams. He's going to be on the roster. Now, it's a little sticky down here because if you decide to go with 4, then you got to pick between Jakar Hamilton and Ahmad Dixon. I think you're keeping 5. I think both of these guys are going to be on the roster. Ahmad Dixon is a kid you drafted out of Baylor, late in the draft, 7th round pick. And so he had to come in and prove himself, and he had a strong showing against the Chargers in the preseason. And now you're looking for him to continue that momentum and try to make this roster. So the safety position is one that you're trying to iron some things out. You know, you have a lot of guys, Matt Johnson, some guys that you drafted over the years that you were hoping would materialize into something and just haven't. So you're hoping that of this group here, these guys are going to have an impact, help this team get better defensively. We'll see. Those are all the positions that needed to be addressed through camp battles. We move on to the experiment, and this was a layup. This was a slam dunk. Throw it up, alley-oop. Ah! How about them Cowboys? Hey! How about them Cowboys? Hey! How about them Cowboys? Look, I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know about them Cowboys. Maybe you do. I don't. But this research question is going to tell us a lot about them Cowboys. Can the Dallas Cowboys, led by Tony Romo, overcome all the distractions, bypass the injury bug, and silence all the critics and win the NFC East? This division is wide open. It's wide open. Wide open. More wide open than Des Bryant in a walkthrough on a Saturday afternoon. It's wide open. Anybody can win this division. And I think the Giants are going to be terrible this year. The Giants look horrendous. And even they got a shot. You know why? Because nobody in this division has stood up and said, hey, I'm that guy. I'm that team. I'm the alpha male. I run the show. Nobody. Nobody stepped up. Everybody wants to crown the Eagles. Damn that. They're struggling their damn self. Nobody looks like a clear and just flat out runaway favorite in this division. So the Cowboys definitely in the mix. Even with their defense being as funky as it is, they're in the mix. You just need to get rid of the distractions. Tell Jerry Jones to have a seat. Zip it. Okay? Tell him to have a seat somewhere. Quiet down. Simmer down now. Simmer down now. And then you got to stop getting injured. Sean Lee's already gone. You can't afford too many more injuries. DeMarco Murray cannot get hurt. Tony Romo cannot get hurt. Des Bryant cannot get hurt. Jason Witten cannot get hurt. Now, I'm naming off a few guys that don't get injured. Jason Witten doesn't miss time. Tony Romo can't get hurt. Des Bryant doesn't miss time. So, I'm naming off guys, but these are guys that are integral parts of your football team and are paramount to your success. So they can't get injured. And you're the team to hate in this league. You and the New England Patriots. You could sprinkle in the 49ers in there, maybe the Seahawks. Some people are haters, but over the years, Jerry Jones has made this team very dislikable. You look at the Cowboys and everybody's crowned them America's team, so they're going to be critics. They're going to be Tony Romo haters. And there's an East Coast bias, so you always see the Cowboys on television, and you always see Jerry Jones. So yes, you are the Darth Vader of the NFL. You're one of them. Patriots are right there with you, step and step, neck and neck. But look, there has to be a villain, and you guys play that role very well. So why don't you silence the critics when the division get to the postseason? You can. Let's see what you got to do it. Hypothesis. If Tony Romo can stay healthy and the Cowboys can stay out of their own way and the defense doesn't implode, then the Dallas Cowboys can win the NFC East. Look, I already talked about this division being wide open. Your defense is going to have to play much better than they did a season ago, but it's there for the taking. It is there for the taking. I don't need to explain myself that much further. Materials needed. This is what you need to get you to where you want to go. Tony the Cowboy. Tony the Cowboy. When he's at the top of his game, they're great. But when Tony Romo is Tony, oh no. When he's Tony, oh no, instead of Tony Romo, this team goes south. And you're already as south as you need to go. But you can go even lower. So it's imperative that Tony not turn the football over. It's imperative that this offensive line protect him. Because I've said this before and I'll say it again. You got to have a quarterback in this league to win. You got a really good one in Dallas, in Tony Romo. Despite what everybody may say. And yes, he struggles in pressure-packed situations. Yes, that's been chronicled. It's been noted. We know about that. But what about all the other things, all the good things that he does? This Cowboys team isn't even in the discussion if Tony Romo isn't your quarterback. Let me just say this to you. If you feel like Tony Romo's that bad, put Brandon Whedon in the game. See how that works out for you. I bet you wouldn't try that though, would you? So, miss me with all the Tony Romo talk. If Tony is at the top of his game, this team is going to be dangerous. Without Tony Romo, this team is irrelevant. Remember the Chad Hutchinson days? The Quincy Carter days? Remember that? Drew Henson? Do I need to take you back to where you were before this man took over? Vinny Testaverde? Drew Bledsoe? Do I need to take you back there? Because we can go there. I can take you there. I'll take you there. I can take you there. Don't make me do that. Because it was ugly. If you want to know how bad it was, go back and watch the Hard Knocks with Bill Parcells and company. Go watch it. I don't remember who your coach was. I don't think it was Parcells. He wouldn't want any part of Hard Knocks. Might have been him. Might not have been him. Might have been Chan Gailey. It was somebody soft. Maybe it was Dave Campo. I don't know who the hell it was. Doesn't matter. Go watch that Hard Knocks, though. You'll see how bad it was. You better respect Tony, the Cowboy. Because without him, there's no rodeo going on in Big D. The new 88. Ha! Man, I tell you what. I'm ashamed to say this as a Redskin fan. I'm ashamed. Man, I love me some Dez Bryant. God damn it, that boy is bad. That boy is bad. That boy is good. Damn, he's good. He's about to be one of the best receivers in the league. Damn, he's good. And it sickens me because I know this kid has the potential to be the best in the league. And he's bubbling. He is bubbling right there at the surface. And he's about to blow. And he's in my goddamn division. I got to deal with him twice a year. The new 88 is here. Damn, he's good. And wherever you're going to go, it's going to be on the right shoulder of Tony Romo and the legs, hands, and arms of the new 88, Dez Bryant. Damn, that boy's good. And he had a funny line in training camp. He got into it with J.J. Wilcox. And he said, oh, it wasn't nothing. He just pissed me off. Yeah, he just hit me hard. I got up, I was mad. But I told him, if everybody play like you play, if everybody hit like you hit, we going to be all right. We going to be a good football team. Damn, I love me some Dez Bryant, man. You say what you want about him. The kid wants to be the best. The passion burning inside of his stomach is one of wanting to be the best. He hates losing. He wants to win. Give me 11 of them dudes. You say what you want. Oh, he's blowing up on the sidelines. This isn't the time for that. Well, we saw what he did against Detroit last year on the sidelines. That's passion, man. That's a kid that cares. Yeah, he a knucklehead. He do some dumb stuff. He gonna pick up some penalties. He gonna fumble the football a couple of times. Yeah, he's gonna do all of those things. But all of the things that he brings to the table, you can't coach that either. You got it or you don't. And that kid there, Dez Bryant, he's got it. Pay the man. Pay that man. Clean up on aisle D. Clean up on aisle D. Clean up on aisle D, please. Clean up on aisle D. There are so many messes along this defense. I don't know if you can clean them all up at once. But I tell you this much. If you can make an improvement here, an improvement there, one there. Look, there's about 27 things wrong with this defense. I don't expect you to fix all 27 of them at one time. But if you can fix 10 of them, if you can bring down a completion percentage, if you can not give up 33 touchdowns through the air, another 17 on the ground, if you can stop teams, look, you can give up 415 yards per game. Keeping teams out of the end zone is the key. They can go 20 to 20 up and down the field, track meet, have fun. As long as they're not crossing that thick white line before the color. If they're not doing that, then you can care less. Make them kick field goals. But you got to bring that number down. Teams can't be scoring all day and all night on you. They can't do it. You can't be staying on the field all day long. You forced turnovers last year. That's going to help you. That's going to keep you in ball games. Forcing turnovers. You want to clean up Al D? Because there's a mess. It's a huge mess on Al D. You want to clean up Al D? Force turnovers. That's my best advice. The great equalizer. Force turnovers. That's the only way you're going to be able to put a Band-Aid on all these different cuts you got. Because you're bleeding all over the place. I got some peroxide. It's going to help. But it ain't going to stop. You put your finger in this dike here. And that dike, it's still a hole right here. Hey, get you some turnovers, man. That's the best way to clean up Al D. This one is big. This one is huge. Jerry, sit your ass down and shut up. Let me repeat that. Jerry, sit your ass down. Sit your monkey ass down and shut up. I've said this before. And I'll say it again, and I'm going to continue to repeat myself. This team will never, ever win with Jerry Jones as your owner. Never. Unless Jerry makes some changes. And Jerry, he is who he is. He's not changing a damn thing for nobody. I am proud of Jerry, though. Because the Jerry Jones that I know, I put the gun in Jerry. I gave Jerry a loaded 9mm. Here, Jerry, take it. A Glock 22. I said, Jerry, take it. And it was loaded. I said, Jerry, here, put the gun in his hand. Jerry looked at that cold steel. He said, man, I could do a lot of things with this. I said, Jerry, no. I didn't give it to you to wreck some things. I gave it to you to put the gun to your head, man. I said, draft Johnny Manziel. Draft him. I said, here's the gun. Shoot yourself. Because if you drafted Johnny, this team was going to hell in a handbasket so damn fast, your head was going to spin. So I said, go ahead and blow your brains out, Jerry. Here's the gun. Jerry looked at that cold steel. And he put the gun down. He took the bullets out. He disassembled the gun, man, and handed it back to me. Said, man, I don't want no part of that, man. I was proud of Jerry, man. Because I just knew he was about to blow his brains out and draft Johnny Man. And you know he was itching. The trigger finger was itching, man. But cooler heads prevail. I'm proud of him for that. So he's making subtle changes, but it's not enough. We seen the pictures of Jerry out there with them broads, but look, that's some old pictures. They tried to extort him. I can commend him for saying, and I ain't giving you nothing. But look, Jerry just got to sit down and shut the hell up. Sit your ass down and shut up. I don't want to hear from you during the season. And you know, Jerry's the first guy they stick a mic in his face after a loss, a tough loss, and Jerry just going to start talking. A big win, Jerry just starts, shut the hell up, Jerry. Shut up. You bring more turmoil and more controversy to your team than anything happening on the field. Other than Tony Romo throwing an interception at the end of the game, of course. Other than that, you bring all the drama around Big D. It's you. You the common denominator. Even when you were winning, you were the one stirring the pot. That's why Jimmy Johnson left. It was you. Sit your ass down and shut up. Finish him. Finish him. Now you can take this one of two ways. This one goes one of two ways right here. All right? Finish him. Either it means that you need to finish ball games. And we know about Tony Romo's history. I don't need to rehash that. He turns it over late in ball games. We seen it. Denver last year. It was Denver. What else was it? It was Green Bay last year. Yeah, we seen it. We saw it time and time again. We saw it. It happens. We know what Tony does. I don't need to go into that. Okay? We know what it is. Or it could mean finish Jason Garrett. Because if you don't win this year, he needs to go. Redhead Jesus needs to go. You already stripped him of his play calling duties. So as a head coach, as a man, he already feels naked. He feels violated. You took the one thing that I really wanted to do, which was call plays. You took that from me. So now the next thing to do, the next logical step is to fire him. So either this Cowboys team can stand up and finish football games and make it to the postseason and save Jason Garrett's job, or you could finish him off, lose 8 or 9 games this year, finish him off as a head coach, and get yourself a new one. What's it going to be? You can do one or two things. Either way, finish him. Finish him. You go on to the independent variable. Tony Romo and turnovers. Tony, I already said this, and I'm really not going to elaborate on this. I'm going to say this one time, and we're going to move on to turnovers. Wherever you're going to go this year, Tony Romo's going to take you. Keep rising to the top. If you're going to the top, Tony Romo's going to give you all he got. If you're going to the bottom, it's going to be a rope with a boulder attached to Tony Romo's hip, and he's going to take you straight down to the bottom. Either way, Tony Romo's taking you wherever you're going to go. Turnovers. Your defense is terrible, and you know this. So the only way to balance the playing field is to get turnovers. You did it last year. That's the only reason you were 8-8 last season, is because you generated turnovers. You were +8 in the turnover department, which means you didn't turn it over and you generated turnovers on the defensive side of football. You're going to have to do it again. Simple as that. You don't generate turnovers and teams are able to stay on the field and put points up on the scoreboard, you're going to lose in 2014. You have to get turnovers. It's a must. And the dependent variable is the wins. Because if Tony Romo is playing at a high level, if the defense is generating turnovers, you're going to win football games. If Tony Romo isn't playing up to his full potential, if he's getting hit, if they're not protecting him, if the running game isn't complimenting Tony Romo, and you're not getting turnovers on the defensive side of the football, you're not going to win. So dependent variable is wins. You move on to the constant, it's two things. There's the good and then there's the bad. Jason Witten is the good. I mean, I keep waiting. I say this every year. This is the year that Jason Witten's ass is going to slow down. He's going to be slow. He's always been slow. But somehow 82 finds a way to get open. He's so damn crafty. He pushes off. It's real subtle. It's real subtle to the point where the officials just miss it. Either that or they just turn a blind eye. I didn't see him push off. But he gets open. And he catches the football. And then somehow he's able to pick up a couple of extra yards after he catches it. I'm like, do you understand that this man is slow as molasses? Why is he open? Why is he running down my secondary? Why is he in the end zone? Because he's Jason Witten. Because he's a future Hall of Famer. That's why. I don't understand how this man does what he does, but he does it. And he's done it consistently for the Dallas Cowboys. He is definitely a constant on his football team. And then the bad is Jerry Jones. I already talked to Jerry once. I'm not going to talk to Jerry again. I said it before, and I'm going to say it this time, and then we're going to move on. Jerry, sit your ass down and shut up. And he's the constant, because he's always stirring up something. Every time something's going on in Big D, he's right smack dab in the middle of it. If it's controversy, you know you ain't got to go that far to find Jerry Jones if it's in Dallas. Conclusion. What does this all mean for the Dallas Cowboys? I look at this team, and I look at one of the most talented offensive football teams in the league. You go 3-4 deep at receiver. You go 2-3 deep at tight end. You go 2 deep at running back. Tony Romo's orchestrating the whole thing. Offensive line is starting to really gel together. You just added another great piece in the first round in Zach Martin. And you really were already solid last year. You just needed to clean up the guard position, and you've done that somewhat. This thing is really coming together offensively. It's the defense that's the problem. You know that. I know that. And everybody else knows that. That's no secret. So the key is, can you get turnovers? Can this defense apply pressure to quarterbacks? Can you scheme up and devise a way to get pressure on opposing teams and generate turnovers? I don't know. I don't know. You didn't do a really good job of getting sacks last year. You got turnovers, though. How will you look without DeMarcus Ware? I still question that move. Because I just thought the man just needed to get healthy. Thought there was still a lot of football left there. But couldn't agree on a figure that made sense for both sides. He's now in Denver. What's done is done. So I've got questions. Most of them on the defensive side of the football. I don't know if I've got enough answers. So I see this Cowboys team being 8-8 again. And no, that's not good enough to make it to the postseason. And yes, I think it's going to come down to week 17 in Washington once again for all the marbles in this division. I think between Dallas, Philly, and Washington is where this division is going to play itself out. Because I really think the Giants are bad. But they got a shot just because this division is bad. So if the ball bounces the Cowboys' way, if the defense is better, if Tony Romo stays healthy, if this offense is what I think it can be, this team can win 10 games, win this division. If the ball doesn't bounce their way, if they incur a few injuries here and there, this team's going to end up being 7-9, 8-8, or worse. But I've got them at 8-8 right now, 3-3 in the division. We'll see what they do. That's going to do it for the Dallas Cowboys and their lab report. I thank you for joining me here on this program. You know how it is. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. I thank you for joining me. Come back and join me tomorrow when we break down the next team up on the docket. The Chicago Bears. See you next time. Have a good one. Like the content? Want more? Sub up.